And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is another patron roster review. This is Basilia. Basilia is from Knights of Mandalore. That's the KOM Knights of Mandalore group. So what's happening, you guys? They're a great bunch of individuals. Basilia really wants just to know kind of another Zeta, where to go for the next Zeta, and then also some teams, just some tweaks for Arena, and then the Heroic AAT. And the team I'm looking at, Darth Nihilus-led team, is not a bad team. You can use this team, but I would probably mix up the team a little bit if you're going to use this, and I would probably put in Sith Assassin. I know you've got her only 4 stars, and her ability is down pretty low, but in geared, not too high. I think gear 8, so you're going to have to do a lot of work on her, but Sith Assassin is really, in my opinion, an absolute necessary must in Arena. For a couple of reasons. One, she kind of keeps herself alive by stealthing and whatnot, so it's really hard for them to hit her consistently, and she does a ton of damage. She buffs herself, and then she uses those buffs to just destroy the opponent, and she stuns just like Emperor Palpatine does, but without any of the worry of the rebels hitting her back, because she doesn't do that special damage at the end of her turn like Emperor Palpatine does. So, and she speeds the entire team up. Any character that speeds an entire team up, such as Stormtrooper Han, any of those teams, Poe can do turn meter reduction on the opposing team. Anything where you're turn meter manipulating an entire team, those characters are important. You really need them. And so Sith Assassin, in my opinion, you're running Sith, is kind of a must-have. Plus, you're running a Zeta Savage. And Savage is a cleanser, and with his Zeta, of course, he's just a beast. That's why you're using him. And so this team works, but the reason why you're not going really, really high is you're missing just a little bit of synergy. With Savage in there, you can use Kylo Ren. He's amazing as kind of a non-Sith, but I would definitely pull Rex out of there. I know you're probably using him for cleansing purposes, but Savage should be sufficient, and he kind of goes against what's happening in this team with Rex. So I would throw in Sith Assassin in there for sure, and then possibly throw in Darth Vader or another Sith in place of Emperor Palpatine, because he's a bit of a liability with all of the rebels floating around out there if he's not in the leadership position. So those are some tweaks. Now, you asked about Zeta, which one should you Zeta? If you're going to go the next Zeta for someone or something going into your Arena team, I would recommend Darth Nihilus Unique, the Wound in the Force. What's really great about this is every time, every single character across the way takes a turn, they take health down. So they're going to constantly, non-stop debuff themselves just every single turn. It really sounds like a silly Zeta. A lot of people didn't do it right away, but people who have realized how much better it has made their team, because it just ensures that you have debuffs on the opposing characters, so that way Darth Nihilus becomes more effective. It pretty much guarantees Darth Nihilus's effectiveness. So that's the Zeta I would do if you're going to use the Zeta in the Arena team. However, if you're going to look at the Heroic AAT, which you are, and you are really wanting to do that, we'll talk about the other possible Zeta. So hold the thought on Zetas. Now, in Arena, I would continue to, farm a number of characters, your Rex, your Kylo, Darth Nihilus. I would even farm Chirrut, and I know you don't have Baze yet, but I would get Baze, even if you only get him at 3 stars. I would get his shards 3 for 150 crystals, and I know you're free to play, so that's going to throw a huge, wrench in it, but you're going to have to save crystals and use the crystals to unlock Baze, but Baze at 3 stars is phenomenal, so definitely you want to get that unlocked, and you could make a team up in Arena. I know it's kind of placated, it's what everybody else is using, but Rex is the leader with Chirrut and Baze behind him, and then you'd have Kylo Ren and Darth Nihilus. That team could take you into the top 20, even as free to play, so that is the team I would really recommend long term. Plus, those characters are going to help you in the raids. They're going to help you in other areas of the game, but your Rex is kind of coming along, your Kylo Ren's coming along, and Darth Nihilus, but your Turret is sort of there, but you need bays, and so you've got to unlock bays at a minimum, so you need 50 shards. It's going to cost probably $10 worth of crystals, but you can earn those crystals for free throughout the weeks and just save it up and just spend them solely on bays. I would make them a high priority for sure. As far as a couple of characters to farm that I just noticed, and they come out of Empire, and I was just looking at all your characters, and these two characters just totally stuck out to me, was TIE Fighter Pilot and Death Trooper. Both of them are absolutely amazing. They're both usable in raids, and they're both usable in the arena, and so I would highly recommend you also take the time to focus on the TIE Fighter Pilot and Death Trooper, both in gearing them up and in developing them star-wise, you know, leveling them up as far as the stars go. So those are two that kind of stuck out. Now let's go ahead and go into the heroic AAT and talk about the phases. Phase 1, I would use your Jedi, which is what I normally suggest. You do have an Imagun die at gear 9, and so I would recommend using him as the leader with Jedi Knight Anakin, Qui-Gon Jinn, Aayla Secura, and then probably Luminara, because she'll do more damage than your Yoda, and she is going to be a healer for that team. And since this team is not, you know, all gear 11 maxed out, you're going to need a little bit of healing if you're going to try and get to the end of phase 1 before it ends. So yeah, definitely I would do Imagun die, Jedi Knight Anakin, Luminara, Aayla, and Qui-Gon. And this is the path of least resistance for you because you're essentially free to play, and so that's where the route I would go. For phase 2, I normally recommend them for phase 4, but I'd recommend actually your Rebels for phase 2, and I would use probably your Wedge and Biggs, Wedge leading with Biggs, and then use Lando Calrissian because he's your highest and he's going to have an AoE, and then use Cassian and K2SO. Those two guys have massive synergy together, and you have them both 7-star gear 8, so I would probably plug them in because then it'll get you a tank to protect your team. He's very disruptive, K2SO. He taunts all the time. It really throws a wrench in, and what's nice is the tank can dispel taunts, but because K2SO's constantly throwing his taunts up, it really works well for that. And with phase 2, I know your Rebels aren't that high, but in phase 2, all you have is the tank by itself, and so it's probably where your Rebels are going to shine the most, is going to be that phase 2, and continue developing these characters. All these teams for free to play, it's really tough. All these teams, you got a ton of characters to develop, and from gear 8 on, it's an absolute nightmare. So just do your best. That's all you can ask for. Really, the star rate is the most important for free to play, and this is why. You want to be able to participate, right? Even if you get 12,000 damage or 20,000 damage or 80,000 damage, you can't even play if you don't have a 7-star. So you want to make sure you get those characters to 7 stars first so you can play with them, and then you can learn strategies, develop them, gear them up, and all of that. But the star rate really is most important for the raids because otherwise they don't even get to play. For example, your Chirrut, great character, gear 9 already, but you can't even use him in the raids because he's only a 4-star. So make sure that you are starring up all the characters that I'm suggesting so you can use them. For phase 3, I'm going to suggest the classic Empire team. You already have Royal Guard 7-star. You could use Darth Vader in here with Emperor Palpatine. I do really recommend Shore Trooper and TIE Fighter Pilot and Death Trooper. Those 3 that are 4 and 5 stars are really 3 of the best characters that you could use under Emperor Palpatine, but they're not leveled up. Shore Trooper, you probably just give up and use Royal Guard. You can also use your Stormtrooper Han from your Rebels under there. So Royal Guard, Stormtrooper Han, Emperor Palpatine. But the next 2 I'd recommend for this team are TIE Fighter Pilot and Death Trooper. Both farmable and both are capable of putting in a lot of damage in this phase 3 team under Emperor Palpatine because of their AoE damage. They get to just take extra turns because of the turn meter gain they get under Emperor Palpatine. And of course, Death Trooper, if you Omega his ability, you can throw down the death mark. So I recommend these are the 2 characters. Like I said earlier, the TIE Fighter Pilot and Death Trooper probably become like your top 2 characters to farm into gear as far as getting the star rate up. For phase 4, I'm actually going to recommend clones with Princess Leia, and so you're not going to use 5s or excuse me, you're not going to use Rex in this particular team. You're going to use Princess Leia in this team, and you're going to use your clones for Phase 4. This is one of the few teams you actually invested a ton of time and energy and effort into. This is the team that you are the most prepared for, and so this is where the Zeta comes into play. I said for Arena, you could Zeta the unique of Darth Nihilus. However, the heroic AAT is really important to you, and you do not have his leadership ability Zetaed. So this, in my opinion, would probably take precedence over Arena, is your Zeta Cody. And since you invested so much time, energy, and effort into your clone troopers, I would highly suggest you get the Zeta on Cody. The 5's Zeta is not necessary, but it is worthwhile. It's kind of like Yoda. You don't need Yoda's Zeta, but if you have it, it just gives the team a little more durability. Same thing with 5's. You don't need his Zeta, but it gives the team a little more durability. When you get to the point where your teams are kind of capping out and you're not doing any more damage and you want a little bit more damage, those types of Zetas are going to take you to just the next level. So definitely, this is the recommendation I would have for that. And your clones look absolutely amazing. And of course, you didn't ask about ships, and that's because you don't like them. You're using them as a necessary evil. Just keep in mind that your ships do directly affect how much ship currency you can get, which will affect how many characters you can farm at one time. So I would put a little bit of energy into your ships, just a thought. And overall, again, your Arena, you're getting into the top 100 every day. That's excellent, but just tweak your team. Everyone watching, what are your thoughts? What should Basilia do with his Arena team? Is there a tweak that you didn't hear me say that you thought might work better? As always, leave your comments down below and keep your gaming on. Warrior out.